You ever have that feeling that every memory you ever had is slowly devouring who you currently are? Like you can't push past those memories, like you can't get over them, you can't forget them, you can't forgive them, you can't do anything. You're in a quagmire of your own creation, and that's a difficult spot to be. I don't know why I relive absolutely every humiliating memory I've ever had since I was like a young adult. Just look back and all I see is hate, man. Hatred for the person I was, hatred for the person I am. I want to be something better, man, but I just don't know how to move forward. And I'll tell you what, I got some news the other day from someone I used to maybe look up to some degree. He always seemed kind of jovial despite what was going on in his life. He had trials and tribulations as well, but he was a strong man, and he is no longer with us, unfortunately. You see, his son announced via social media that his father had passed away. He had been battling cancer for the last 7 years, but you really wouldn't know it. He wouldn't complain much until this last year. He looked rather healthy throughout the course of his treatment until recently, and you could tell it ate away on him quite completely. He got skinnier and skinnier, and one of the last selfies he ever took was him with his skin pulled tightly across his bones. Absolutely no fat, no muscle in his face. It looked like a skull with eyes, and his skin was yellow and it looked waxy and reminded me of my father, who died of cancer as well, albeit different kinds. But man, that look of death is so haunting. It's so horrible, and I certainly hope absolutely no one has to go through that. I don't understand how come we can't figure this thing out, man. It's 2025. We've gone to the moon. We've had nuclear war, and we can't figure this out. We just don't do it, and that's a true tragedy. His son announced at 17 years old, and that's the time where you definitely need your father. It's transitional. You're not quite a man, and you're not quite a kid. It's tough. It's rough, and I certainly wish him the best, and I hope he reaches out if he needs anything, and rest assured, if there is anything I could do for him, I certainly will. That being said, it reminded me of someone else who has fairly recently disappeared out of my life, and I fear the worst has happened to this particular person. But years ago, as I alluded to quite a few times in my video, things weren't going very well for me, and I may have mentioned this story in passing, I'm not quite sure. But there was this girl I met when I was going through the throes of addiction, and she had a very similar problem than I did. She was on heavier stuff than me, but she managed it a little bit better than me, if that makes any sense at all. You see, she was a fantastic athlete. She could do anything. She was extremely flexible, extremely strong. She used to do gymnastics, and she used to do a lot of the fitness competitions with swimsuits, so on, etc. Absolutely drop dead gorgeous, and we started seeing each other very briefly, but it was rather intense, our encounters. We got close to each other, we laughed, we cried, we had a nice time, and ultimately I was still too depressed at that time to really think about what a relationship required, and slowly but surely we kind of went our separate ways. And I recall that she sent me a message that was rather pointed and ugly, stating that I wasn't invested whatsoever in her and I didn't care. And I called her and we talked it, and I think we smoothed things over to some degree. I don't know how she felt about me in the end, but I would like to think that it's somewhat favorable. Maybe she looked at me as a kind person. Maybe she barely remembers me at all. Her drugs were heroin and fentanyl, and that is a rough thing to go through and do. I recall a few times when I would drive her down to see her dealers, and she would call them, and she would be so aggressive with them, extremely aggressive with them. And I wish she didn't do that, because these people were professional. They knew what they were doing. They had a system set up. They were making money, and they were dangerous. They were very dangerous. And I know you can't talk to people like that in that tonality for too long, because at the end of the day, this particular business is not sustainable. And they will take what they want, and they will sell you what they have, even if it's not pure and properly mixed, so on, etc. She didn't have the best of dealers, I don't think. She had 2 phones. I used to message them, one mostly, but occasionally the other one as well. And I would send her text occasionally just to check in. She would write me back, so on, etc. And then one day it stopped on both of her phones, unlike her, and she didn't send me any messages checking in on me either. I tried a few times, tried to contact her, tried to call her, so on, etc. And the phones just kind of stopped after a while. And that was alarming. Why would you stop two phones? Maybe one, but not the other. One was kind of for her work at the time, and the other one was, I don't know, for her personal usage. It's never made clear to me. I tried to look her up, even though she made it clear that she was not on social media, because she was trying to avoid a number of people. I think the person who she had a baby with is in jail for like attempted murder. So not the best people. She wasn't surrounded by the best people, even though she was a sweetheart, a kind heart. She just didn't have the infrastructure behind her. She was a warrior. What I think happened, what my hypothesis is that she probably took a hit, and it probably wasn't the best for her, and she probably passed away and OD'd. And that's a true shame, and that breaks my heart. But part of me hopes that she just got back into the weight room and lifted her problems away, got reconciled with her kid and her father, and had a happy ending, and ran into some guy or girl who she fell madly in love with, and things are A-okay in her world. I hope that's what happened. But I don't think it did. I don't think it did. And that's the sadness, right? That's the true sadness, because she was in a situation that's much like mine. She was in the nothing. You ever seen Neverending Story? I'm in the nothing. The nothing has me. The nothing had her as well, but it swallowed her whole. And I'm just still kind of like holding on bit by bit, doing my best. But I don't know. I don't know how much optimism I truly hold for the future. You know, I have a call tomorrow for an interview. Hopefully that will lead to something good, but I don't really know, man. I don't really know. I feel outmatched, outgunned, and overwhelmed. But we shall see. Here's to better days. And do yourself a favor, man. If you have a friend that's like maybe has a problem or something, call them, you know, or send them a message, just a text message. Believe me, being depressed and having issues right now, you know, the one thing I want to turn to is substances. But I know I can't do that because that's a death sentence, right? So maybe if you have someone who's down and out, just reach out to them. Just ask if they're okay. You'd be surprised how meaningful that is to the recipient. It's not weird. It feels good. It feels like someone cares, man. It feels like they won't be so missed. I feel like no one will miss me at all.